Good morning again, Year 9. So we're continuing with Act 2 this lesson. So how was Gerald involved in Eva Smith's death? Does he take any responsibility? And what is his relationship with Sheila like at this point in the play? We're going to continue with reading Act 2 today. There's quite a few pages. As usual, either you can choose to read through it on your own or you can watch the YouTube clip that's attached on this PowerPoint, and it's attached to show my homework. So what we have here is a little character grid, okay? So these are some of the words that have been used to describe Mrs. Berlin as a character in this part of the play. If you don't know what any of them mean, just have a quick Google to see what they mean. And your task is to see if from the pages that we've just read or you've just listened to, can you find a quotation to support each? So can you find a quotation that shows that she's being obnoxious? Can you find one that shows that she's being cold? Can you find one that shows she's being foolish? And can you find one that says that she's being rude? This should take you about 10 minutes. It is going to take you having to have a look back through previous slides, so make sure that you do it properly. So I know you're all a huge fan of becoming the investigator now, so why ruin a good thing, okay? So there's 3 questions here that I'd like you to have a go at answering, all to do with Mrs. Berlin and her involvement in the death of Eva Smith. As always, answering full questions in your book for full sentences in your book for me, and then we can go through the answers afterwards. So obviously one of the things about an inspector calls is that there are always a lot of contrasts happening. So we always have kind of the younger versus the older generation, we have men versus females, we have Eric versus Mr. Berlin, we have Gerald versus Eric. There's a lot of contrasts and they show us a lot of the differences that, you know, different types of people could make in society. So I just want you to think about how you could compare Sheila and Mrs. Berlin at the moment. So are there things that they do that are very similar? Could you compare them in that way? But are there things that they do that are very different? Remembering they're both from the same gender, from the same class. Technically their behaviour should be very similar, but we know that they're not entirely so. You can set this out how you'd like to in your book. So if you are in school, you might want to print the pictures out and do a mind map around the picture. You might want to create a table. But I would just want you to think about how do they compare as women. So they're from the same class, they're from the same gender, but they do things quite differently. So this one is a little bit of a harder task, okay? And you might be able to answer it, you might not, but that's absolutely fine. That's what these lessons are about. So at the end of Act 2, which is obviously what we've finished reading, there is a dramatic device that is used, okay? And a dramatic device is kind of like something that the writer includes that makes the play either stop or start or act in a certain manner, okay? So do you know which dramatic device is used at the end of Act 2? If you do, very well done. If not, then we'll move on to you can move on to the next slide and obviously I can explain it to you. So why do you think Priestley chooses to use this device here? And would you say the tension at end of Act 1 was more intense than the tension at Act 2, and why? So if you struggled on the last task, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to give you a little bit of information that's going to help you to be able to complete the second 2 parts. So which dramatic device is used? Well, dramatic irony is the device that's used, and that means where the audience knows something that the characters on stage do not. So it means that we've been we've been told some information that other characters might not have been, so they don't understand. So the dramatic irony in this act is that we know that Eric is the father of Eva's baby, but his mother does not. So his mother is condemning him. She's saying that the father should be responsible. She's really going at the father. And actually, you know, it's her own son. So with that in mind, I'd like you to then have a go at answering the second 2 questions for me, okay? So there's help there if you need it.